what we're trying to do when we're pulling is we need to have what I'm going to call a positive angle. This hand is further back than this hand. This is when you can generate power, okay, and lift. All the time I'm doing that, the boat is getting lighter and lighter. The moment I get to this point, I have no power anymore, okay, none at all. Right, while we're here, we've got a couple of mistakes here already, so we'll talk about it. This position, can I go to the toilet? So, can I leave the class? Okay, let go of that. There's an area here. We're trying to create this strong top arm. This is the key, so this is important. These arms are only strong in certain positions. Okay? If you were to do a press up, where would you do a press up? Somewhere here, I don't know, but vaguely here. If you were to do a bench press, where would they be? Vaguely here. No one does a press up here, or a bench press up here. There's a reason. Hands down, in press up position. Are you strong? You better be, because I trust in you. Okay? That's half decent. Right. Here, push hard as you can. This is not good. Okay? Out here, this is also not good. Okay? So there's an area here somewhere that differs from one person to another. Somebody will do a bench press here, somebody will do it here. People are people. And that's where one of the differences creeps in technique. Some people are happy up here, some people are happy out here. Now for most people, you're pretty good at 90 degrees. Now, every photo you can see of people head on, the good guys will be roughly 90 degrees. The very good guys are strong enough to go just outside 90 degrees. So people like Tim who had the baboon arms anyway, he can just go outside 90 degrees. And the further you go out, obviously the more force you can generate. If you can hold that force. Someone like me, I'm just inside 90 degrees. And that's kind of more normal. So this is important, positioning of the top hand. Have it somewhere strong. Nobody does press ups with elbows higher than their shoulders, because that's just giddy. And that's good there, okay? So when you set up next time, don't mess me about. Okay, in this position, just pull up the side, see what you got. Okay, not bad. So, all of them. That's all of them. Okay, in this position, don't put hands up. Nice and strong. Okay. When you watch her, she's getting frustrated. Just be calm. Go. Just stop a minute. She's desperate to finish the stroke, to get the stroke done. So what does she do? She starts pushing that top hand out. There's no, all the time you can't move the boat, you've got to be in the strongest position possible. Don't weaken it, just because you want to get there. You have to wait until you get there. So you have to keep this strong position. So we'll get to that in a minute. What I'm aiming at the moment, I keep getting distracted, is that in this position, in a positive angle, she can move 8 bungees, and she will always be able to move it this far. Go. Go. Okay? Now, if you double the load on those bungees, and you go again, she can still move that far. Okay? Now, if we something like that, be calm. Okay, if we start from here, what have we got on there? 3. If we start from here, now we're in a negative angle, where this hand is above this hand, and ask her to go to the end of the slide. Come on. Come on. you can't do it. So here we had 16 bungees worth, and we can always move this far. The moment this hand overtakes this hand, you're rubbish. Nothing personal. No one can do this, okay? So you must generate power, which you can do in this position. Otherwise, you get to that position with your top hand too soon, and then you're essentially useless. Thank you. Canoeing, or kayaking, whatever you want to call it, just like pretty much any other sport, is about sequencing. It's not about what it looks like from the side. We all watch kayaking from the side. It's a crap place to watch kayaking from. It's about sequencing. So if you were to do a throw, if I'm going to throw something through that door, set me up, what's the first thing I do?
Look at it, just
Turn sideways. I'm going to go sideways. I'm going to throw through there. Then what? Then I'll load my back leg, because where's the power going to come from the throw?
from there.
The power is coming from the leg. I set my arm up in this position. Does that look familiar at all? Okay. All sports are the same. We set up in this position, we've got the legs bent like that, we've got the arm bent like that, and what happens? I start with my leg. What's my arm done? Nothing. Then my hip joins in. What's my arm done? Then my waist joins in. Then my elbow, and then my wrist and my fingers. So I start with power, which is slow. Okay? I'm going to put slow, if I let go of this, having done the power bit, it's none too impressive. Equally, you're up. Have we got a little fluffy board or something? Just a bit of paper. Well done. Doing a bit of paper.
What was that? No.
Yeah, go for it. Okay. It's a bit unfair. I might pick the wrong person, but there are two types of throws. There are boys' throws, and there are other throws.
Do you want me to do a girl's throw?
I'd like to just see you throw it.
Like, do you want me to try properly, or do you want me to just
Do whatever you want.
Do it properly like a girl. There you go.
Not too bad. It's alright, it's alright. But you're not going to generate much power once this is off the floor. This must stay on the floor throughout. Foot must stay on the footrest throughout. So, it's very different. That essentially, you've lost the power halfway through and you just use the speed. Okay? Speed without power is rubbish. That's the negative angle on there. So, for throwing, power, power, speed. Okay? In that order. This is exactly the same. So here we generate power. Power, power. Now we've got the boat moving. There's probably zero resistance at this stage to the boat moving. Resistance on here still. We generate the power and then we generate the speed. We can only use the fast muscles or the small muscles for the speed bit. If we use the speed at the front, it's done. If you do a deadlift, exactly the same. Golf swing, exactly the same. Deadlift, if you try to do this bit first, before you do this bit, it won't go very far. You have to get the thing moving and use the biggest muscles, the smaller ones, the smaller ones, the smaller ones, the smallest ones. Okay, because the smaller the muscle, the faster it will move. So it's all about sequencing. You cannot break the sequence, nor can you override the sequence and use your fast ones first just because you're in a hurry. You have to be patient. Catch is a strange thing because it's very important, but we've just talked about it. It's what part of the stroke. the slowest part of the stroke. How many people try and hit the catch? That's a terminology we hear a lot of.
Because they're starting the stroke from up here.
Yeah, you try and hit the catch. If you're standing by the side of a swimming pool and you dip your foot in to see how cold it is, how much resistance does that water offer you? None. You will go straight to the bottom. If you jump off the 10-metre board and hit that water, how much resistance does that water offer you? A hell of a lot. If you hit a catch, it offers you infinite resistance. The only way you can get around that is to jar, escape it, and go. Okay? The catch is a slow part of the stroke. The paddle is put in the water. You familiar with watching swimming? Sometimes you see that from underwater. Hand goes in here, then where's it go? Forward. Goes in the water and forward, then they hook on, and then they pull back. The actual placing of the paddle, or hand, in the water is in the wrong direction for movement, okay? But unless you hold on to water, if you hit it, you will always end up with that vacuum behind the paddle. And until that vacuum is filled and the paddle is wedged in the water, you have no power. Because power relies on, if you're pushing on this side, there's no resistance to the other side, nothing. You haven't got prayer. So you have to have the paddle enclosed and embedded in the water before you pull on it. So you can use whatever language you like to get that across to your athletes. Terminology I use, because I want to use something slower than a hand. If you start talking about placing your hands, they're the things that move very fast. So I want my kids to put the paddle in with their top shoulder. So here, and the paddle is put in the water, boom, with the top shoulder. It's this that puts the paddle in. Okay? If you start putting in with your hands, you'll come back. Okay? We're starting there still. What you've got to do is hit that water so hard that you go to the end of the thing. Go. And it just bounces off. You see his body, this hand will want to go up. His whole body jars. Only when it's all stabilised does he then move to the end of the slide. One more go. Okay. It's massively destabilising because everything gets juddered. You have to wait until the vacuum behind the paddle fills and then you can go. So we never hit the catch. We place, we place, we place. It's like a nice crawling, like creeping cat type movement. So nice, steady. Right, we're fine. Thank you.
Yes, you're almost waiting for the blade to be put in before you start.
Yeah. A good catch, you don't know when it happened, you just know that it has. Okay? So when you see people on the paddling machine, if that string is going ga-dang, 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 every time they pull, and you can hear it, this isn't a good catch. It must be type noise. We'll do that a bit later.
And the catch.
Just see how good my imitation was.
Positive angle to just
The catch has to be a positive.
So Ivan, what are you thinking about the weight transfer, like this concept, like how it actually you're gonna transfer the the weight
From
from the catch. So you say like you don't want
From this catch, okay? This shot, I'm pushing on this leg. This is my main producer of force, okay? That will push me over this way. That's not how I want to be, because I've got no weight on the paddle. So I must counter this force with this force. From this shoulder, and this way. And I must stand up off my left leg. My motivation is to get out of the boat. So just like if I had a chair either side and I want to get off this seat, I would push down to go up. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to generate downward force so that it lifts me up. Because if I'm lifted up off this seat, if I can't do it, nobody can, but if I could push down hard enough to get me off this seat, how much of my weight is then on this paddle? Absolutely all of it, okay? You can't get all of it, but we talk about getting all of it. So the more I can push down with my shoulders, the more weight I've got on this paddle. So that's how I get my weight onto that paddle. If this paddle snaps now, I'm going in this side. If that paddle snaps now, I'm going in that side. Okay? So we've done our pull. Boom. The pull, where we can actually generate power, is over. But we generated some movement now. So actually, once I'm moving, in this position I can, even that adds to it. As long as I can keep pressure on this side of the paddle, anything I do, whether it's gripping my hand up, will add to that. And the best at this was Holman, and we'll go through that in a minute. But from this position, we've got to get that paddle out somehow. And the main motivation for getting it out, or during the phase where we get it out, is what? Not to slow us down. Okay? So you've got two ways that people get paddles out. They either come inwards and do this whole thing, or they go outwards. Inwards is a problem because once you lift that elbow up, you start a sequence of events: bicep, forearms, and you start turning in. If you sit there like that, well, you can if you want. Just sit there like that for me. We're doing direct instructions now. Come on, sit there like that. If you turn your elbows up and your wrists in, what happens to your shoulder blades? They come off your spine, off your rib cage, right? The only thing that holds your arm to your body is that shoulder blade. Okay, so now you've got a little pipe cleaner on its own, in space, flapping about. It's no use to you. You can't generate any force with that at all. It's not actually attached anymore. If you sit there like that, drop your elbows, turn your wrists out, turn your hands back, now where are your shoulder blades? Fixed, they're compressed onto your rib cage. If you come out that way, that hand still expresses what your body's doing. It still doesn't have an opinion of its own, and that's much better. The other reason why you don't want to come inwards is because once you've got to here, you're stuck. You can only come upwards. And if you're coming upwards and the boat is going forwards, the paddle is actually stationary compared to relative to the boat, and all the time you're bringing it out, it's slowing you down. If you come out to the side, it doesn't matter how late you take it out, you can still be moving it backwards. Doesn't matter how late you take it out, but what I'm saying is, even if you take it out too late, provided you've gone out that way, it will still be moving and it will come up anyway. The other benefit, of course, if you lift the elbow first, you have to lift all of the arm. If you lift elbow last, you only lift half an arm. And over a couple of hours, or 20 hours, that adds up. Okay? So you're just relaxing. If you lift your elbow first, you get tension here. If you lift your elbow last, you have no tension here. It's all relaxation. So it's important to tell my kids to take the paddle out with the back of the arm, not the front of the arm. That's an instruction I give them. Now, what will counter that is if you look at your Holman's, when he's in this position, which I'm telling you to be in, his next position is that. Okay? Because he's keeping this face of the paddle, this is sort of the icing on the cake that most people, including myself, can't do. They can actually keep the face. If you roll out that way, you lose the drive face. He will keep the face still in a drive direction, and he can still add the last bit of speed to his stroke with this.
Does that not scoop water out on the exit?
It will still come out to the side. So you've got the closed edge and the open edge. It will still come out to the side and the water will just pour off. If you do this, yes, you can't. The paddle is level, not coming out at an angle, so yes, you will in here. So not only you braking, you're lifting a load of water, and also as that shoulder comes up, we're losing our balance as well. But I think your arm has a natural path. It's only dropping. The only reason it comes back to you is because it's attached at the top and not at the bottom. So it comes back in its natural arc. Once you've got to the bottom of that natural arc, or somehow the bottom isn't at the bottom, it's there. It drops to there, and then you take it out. You come too far.